Egan here at the Chamber, and we are so fortunate today to have Sergeant Jim Cross and Detective Caitlin Craigie here to talk with all of us in regard to business safety. Hopefully we will take something out of this that will allow our businesses to be a little bit more secure. And, you know, again, we welcome questions. We are recording this for future use if anybody would like to contact us for that. And I'm going to turn it right over to Jim and Caitlin, and thank you, and please extend our thanks to the chief.
Okay. Morning, everybody. I'm Jim Cross. I'm a detective sergeant with the police department, and I have Kate with me here today. She is a detective in our family services unit, so she's assigned to the middle school, and she's also the face of our community service unit. So we have her doing a bunch of our presentations and community-oriented stuff. This presentation that we're about to give is typically something that we give to seniors and residents of the town, but we've adapted it a little bit to meet the needs of the business portion of our town, because we think that you guys are an important piece in the town that can help us try to solve some of these things. We have Community Bank with us, and I had a conversation with them recently about people that come in and the customers that they serve. And unknowingly to me, there was a ton of incidents at the bank that they forwarded themselves and were able to stop before it even got forward and needed the police involvement. So the goal at the end of this is to hope that you guys all pull something from it, so that if you see something happening within your business, you can stop it, or at least call the police and involve us early enough where we can prevent somebody from being a true victim of identity theft. Kate, if you got anything else, we'll go through the slides.
All right. So this PowerPoint presentation will cover identity theft and scams specifically. We'll talk about check fraud as well throughout. But if anyone has any questions, please feel free to submit them into the chat and we can answer those at a later time. All right. So plain and simple, what is identity theft? When someone wrongfully obtains and uses another person's personal data in some way that involves fraud or deception, typically for economic gain. So we're going to go over a ton of different types of identity theft and how they affect people individually as well as businesses. And we'll go over some tips of what to do at the end if you do become a victim of identity theft, and help us help you in situations going forward. So how the identity thief will gain your information is through your name, date of birth, social security number, credit card information.
This changes on many levels to every day when new technology comes out, new social media platforms, new ways to pay, whether it's Apple Pay or
Venmo,
all of these new things that come out. It's important that the consumer identifies this new program and ensures that it's valid. We hear that TikTok is a Chinese-based thing and they're collecting data. I don't have no information to prove that, but who knows? You know, if it's a platform that's out there, it's important that we verify the validity of the platform and ensure that they're not taking people's identity or using information for nefarious purposes.
Okay. All right. How do identity thieves get our information? So they'll target a person specifically and steal mail electronically or physically directly from their mailbox. We have a case right now where, you know, these thieves are out going through town and they're looking for the red flag up on your mailbox. They're like, there's got to be a bill in there, something with personal information, medical information. You know, we're going into tax season. There's going to be checks in the mail. These are literally red flags for criminals who want to obtain your information, and they can do so by bank statements, credit card bills, tax information, medical information, personal checks. So I personally have been advising my family members, as we still use checks to, you know, fulfill payments, you know, medical bills, etc., to go directly to the post office and submit it through the post office, like directly into the wall or directly into a blue mailbox in front of a post office. Be careful about blue mailboxes in rural areas where there's not a lot of, you know, monitoring or activity where somebody could try to get into that blue box and retrieve mail as well.
There was actually a recent change by the Postal Service, and they went through and they updated many of their blue boxes because thieves were able to get in and defeat the blue box with a device. In simple terms, it's a ball with a string that has a sticky substance on it, and they were able to lower that into the blue box and then pull people's mail from the blue box. They've gone through and changed a lot of those, especially in higher populated areas, but the rural areas are probably not there yet where they've updated the blue boxes. So while that is a secure option, just make sure that you potentially can do it closer to the time when it's going to be picked up out of the blue box and not do it the night before. The same with the flag. If you're going to put mail in your mailbox, try to ensure that you're putting it on either in the morning or closer to when mail might be picked up. And also understand that just because a check makes it through the mail doesn't mean that the information hasn't been stolen off of it. So all a thief really needs is they need the routing number and the account number off of the check. They can simply take a picture of the check and then use that to recreate another check. Very easily, you can purchase check paper and check software, and you can develop checks and change who the payer is and the payee and the amount of the check very easily. The only thing they need is your routing number and your account number, and then they can create a whole new check, which is something that we're seeing pretty regularly. And part of that is to ensure that if you're dealing with checks, make sure you're identifying the person that's using the check. So if somebody shows up in your business to pay with a check, and it's not their name on the check or not somebody that you're familiar with, ensure that you're taking ID off of the back of the check or writing the ID on the check so that you know a driver's license number or some way to verify the person. Not to say that that's not going to be fake information either, because there's fake IDs out there and it's something that we've encountered, but at least it's going to ensure that as a business owner, you're using proper practice, because what we're going to talk about through this whole presentation is ultimately somebody's going to pay for this larceny. And if you do it right on your end, potentially the bank will have to pay for it. If you do not do it right on your end, the bank is going to come back after you and or the financial institution, and you're going to end up being on the hook for not using the proper process when you take a check in or any form of payment as we talk moving forward.
And in regards to banks specifically, there is trainings, employees or personnel go through trainings. We can provide trainings as well of specifically this to, things to look out for to help us help you and how to, address these situations if you do become a victim of identity theft.
And the biggest part of all that as we move forward, you can change the slide, Kate, but the biggest part of that moving forward is if something doesn't seem right, never be afraid to call us and ask us our opinion or let us weigh in or check the validity of whatever you're doing, because we're always here to help you across any time. Don't be afraid to call the police and we will certainly help you. Maybe it's just a conversation and maybe it's just, nope, this is right. We verified this and everybody goes on their way, or maybe you stop something. So never be afraid to call and let us help you figure this out if something doesn't seem right. In most cases, you are in this line of work, you're in this business, every day taking in payment, if something's different, your senses are gonna set you off and you're gonna know that it's wrong. So trust your senses, and if it's wrong, then ask a couple more questions.
So going into some types of identity theft, and again, this PowerPoint presentation has been provided to Terry and Ellen for future reference, or if anybody who may need it. But to start off, we're going to talk about tax-related ID theft. We're going into tax season, specifically using your social security number to get a job, steal your tax refund, and to obtain government benefits. And we'll go a little bit deeper into those specifics, but I also provided a IRS helpline just in case anybody needs it for their records as well.
There was a large influx during COVID of the unemployment scam.
Yes.
Sorry for making sure that, but there was a lot of people that were frauded from the unemployment scam. And basically the recurring thing that you'll hear from us is there's no such thing as junk mail. Anything that comes to your mailbox, open up, because a lot of times the thieves will use your address. So if they apply for a credit card in your name, you're going to get the statement in the mail. If they're using your social security number for tax purposes, they have to send you the mail. So they're going to try to reach out to you, whether it's by email or whether it's by traditional snail mail, as we call it. Make sure that you're opening all those things and you're looking at it. In my opinion, you should never have junk mail. You should always open it up and just see what it is, because you could potentially be preventing that from developing into something bigger.
Absolutely. And if in checking your mail, you could be preventing something that's been going on for a short time or something that's been going on for years. So always be aware, and in talking about just your mail, make sure that you're checking your bank statements too. And we'll get further into that later on, but definitely your bank statements, just make sure that everything looks right. There aren't any, transactions or purchases that are out of your, your normal routine or in different states. Just pointers to look for.
In the virtual world that we live in on your bank statement, most of those you can click the item and you'll be able to see what it is.
Yeah.
That is your bank statement. Never be afraid to question what's on your bank statement and see where the money is going. And certainly check your bank statement to make sure that there's not withdrawals that are not valid withdrawals from your account.
Absolutely. So going into child ID theft, they'll use your child's social security number to, again, the same things. Apply for government benefits, open bank credit card accounts, apply for a loan utility service, rent a place to live. I actually knew of a situation growing up that happened to a gentleman that I worked with, and his credit was completely destroyed. It was a family member that used his information to rent a place to live and open up bank accounts in his name. And being that he was a juvenile, it really hurt his future. So make sure that, if you have your child enrolled, their social security number, but if you have any programs where your child's personal information is enrolled, that you're monitoring that as well. Mailboxes with their information attached to it, etc.
Video game platforms.
Yep.
Kids
Big
are
time.
constantly on video
Big
game
time.
platforms and they're trying to buy, some package that gives them a power up, and they're looking for your credit card number, and they may be using your credit card number without you knowing it. Just track all that stuff. Those platforms, there is a ton of criminals out there that are surfing those platforms and searching for people that they can make an easy target. So, always have that conversation with your children too about giving out personal information. Don't just think it's an adult level. It happens at a juvenile level as well.
Absolutely, monitoring what they're sharing. Medical ID theft, they'll use your name or health insurance numbers to see a doctor, get prescription drugs, file claims with their insurance provider, and receive other care.
Criminals know that medical documents contain tons of personal information. And an example that we just ran into is we do background checks on new hires for police officers, and part of that is reviewing medical documents. So we requested medical documents from Albany Med, and when they arrived at the police station, they had been torn open already. So here's a police officer's application, his medical records that were torn open, and clearly they were reviewed. So that goes back to the mail thing. If you notice that your mail is being opened, then that's a concern. You need to address that with somebody, and certainly start paying attention to what's going on in your financial world to make sure somebody's not stealing your identity. Anything that's marked with medical records, there's a really good shot that there is personal identification information within that envelope. So they're going to target that. So just make sure that you're paying attention to mail that comes in from that's medical related, because your information is on that a lot of times.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, any profession, there's, people with great intentions, and then there's people with not so great intentions. So definitely be mindful of your personal information, no matter where you send it or retain it. Dumpster diving, a little bit of an older identity theft process, but thieves rummage through trash looking for bills or other paperwork with personal information. I personally destroy everything, like mail that comes in. I destroy it right at my residence. I shred it or burn it. I make sure that nothing goes in the trash, but that's just my personal preference.
Pill bottles are the same thing. Pill bottles contain medical information. Anything that you're throwing away, just be conscious of what you're throwing away, both at a consumer level and at a business level. Whatever you're putting in the trash doesn't contain somebody's identification, because no business wants to be the source of a large leak of somebody's information. Typically doesn't occur at the dumpster level or the town level, of a smaller business, but you still don't want to be the person that is the lead of a large leak of somebody's personal information.
Okay. Phishing. Identity thieves pretend to be financial institutions, companies, and send spam pop-up messages to get you to reveal your personal information, making contact through emails or direct phone calls. In regards to the spam pop-up messages, specifically, I had a case where, I had a resident who was on the computer and a pop-up came up saying you have a virus on your computer. She engaged with that service, and the next thing you know, she's giving this scammer direct access to her computer, and now they've accessed her bank account information and they locked her out of her computer. And they were making phone calls to her, advising her to go to her bank, withdraw the money that they submitted into her account. They meant to submit 900, but they accidentally did 9,000, and to have her withdraw the 9,000 and send it to an address in Texas. Like Sarge said earlier, if it doesn't feel right and it doesn't look right, it probably isn't right. Be mindful of what you're clicking on, because just that immediate click onto a link, you're already providing information to that scammer without doing anything.
So as a business owner, we talked that this presentation was geared originally towards residents of the town, but now we're putting it out to the business owner. So as a business owner, you might not be the phishing person, but you're going to be the person who sees somebody come in and trying to purchase 6 or 7 $500 gift cards. Engage in a conversation, and it happened to me at Christmas time. I was at a CVS, and the woman in front of me was buying 5 $500 gift cards, and the clerk actually engaged her in conversation and asked her repeatedly. And then I engaged in the conversation as well, because I wanted to make sure that she wasn't being scammed. And it turned out that in that specific case, she was purchasing gift cards for her 5 siblings, and it was a legitimate purchase. But those are the conversations as business owners that we want you to be more involved in and be more aware of. Financial institutions, if somebody's coming in and making a $6,000 cash withdrawal from their account, and you look at the account and it's never happened before, maybe that's worth hey, is everything okay type of conversation with that person. And keep in mind that they're not going to want to share any information for multiple reasons. One, they've potentially been duped and they feel that and they don't want to admit that. Or 2, the person that's scamming them, who is very good at what they do, has made threats to them that if they involve somebody else, then something's going to happen. We see, and we're going to talk about the grandparent scam. They are taking advantage of a vulnerable portion of the population, whether by age or just by education level. You don't know why they're targeting that person, but they do not want to share that information with you, and they don't want to let you know that what they're doing has to do with a scam. So it may take 2 or 3 questions, not just the one, hey, is it okay? Yeah, it's fine. You might need to go 2 or 3 questions deep into that and really ask them, hey, this doesn't seem right. Why are you doing this? And ask them that. And certainly if they return for a second purchase, now your senses should be up even higher and say, why? She was in here yesterday and bought $5,000 of gift cards. Now she's here today and she's buying another $5,000. Something doesn't seem right. If you don't want to engage the person and you want us to do it, that's fine. Call us. We will do a welfare check. We will have that conversation, and hopefully we can stop it. The thieves' ultimate goal is to try to get as much money as they can in a way that it can't be taken back from them. So the gift card thing, packaging cash into a box and sending cash out, those are ways that we can't get the money back. Credit card companies, we can sometimes recover the money. So thieves are aware of that. So just be aware of the phishing things that are out there, maybe not necessarily as a business owner, but understand that involves you when they come in and they try to make their odd purchases that don't seem normal. And I'm not saying that somebody comes in and buys 10 gift cards. There may be a legitimate purpose, just like the Christmas explanation, but it may be worth that conversation to say, hey, why is this occurring? So you'll be able to identify that as a business owner.
And protect your business names. There's going to be scammers that's like, oh, hi, my name is so-and-so from Lowe's. I'm this, that, I'm the store manager of this capital region. Or, protect your business name too. If your business falls victim to, an identity thief, maybe broadcast, an alert to your employers, your customers, your, people, and advise and be like, listen, we have fallen victim to this. If you are receiving emails or notifications, that there's a free giveaway or there's, this sale, please be mindful that is not our company, our business name. So also watch out for that as well. Skimming, they'll steal your credit card, debit card information when your card is processed. through whether it's pin capturing or just the data off the magnetic strip, the strip on the back of an ATM card. A lot of places where like Cumberland Farms, they'll have a self-standing ATM. At banks, they self-standing ATM outside. They'll, the identity thieves will put a skimming device onto the machine where it looks like an actual piece of the machine. Don't be afraid to reach out and grab on the machine. Make sure that there's no loose connections, no loose wires, something that doesn't look right. If something's dangling or loose fitting. Every time I use an ATM card, I always grab the port where you put the card in to make sure that it is, part of the machine, nothing's loose, nothing's wiggling, because it's a device that looks exactly like the one there, and they'll put it right over. There's also cameras that they can install above the pin pad. So make sure that there's no drilled holes or anything that looks out of place. And just a mindful thing to do, not only at like an ATM, but even when you're at like a Hannaford or Price Chopper and you're scanning your card and you're putting in your pin, use your other hand. Sometimes customers behind you get close. But as a business owner portion of it, when you're checking your ATMs or doing your store closings or, just check your machines too. Make sure that something didn't happen when nobody was watching and that you can protect your customers as well. So just be mindful of even the ATMs like Bank of America. They have a little vestibule where you can go and retrieve money, and it's a door. A lot of times they'll put it on the door where you swipe your card to get access into the vestibule to retrieve money from the ATM. So just be aware and be conscious of where people are sliding their cards so that they're not falling victim, and then you're falling victim to the skimming devices.
In my opinion, it's not a matter of if you're going to be a victim of identity theft. It's more a matter of when you're going to be a victim of identity theft. Across the board, members of our department are constantly, their credit card is captured somewhere in a leak, or it really comes back to monitoring your transactions, paying attention to what's going on your account. Make sure that all the stuff is set up the alarms that are on your credit card. A lot of times, I have any purchase over $250, I get notified of immediately to my cell phone so that I can follow the transactions. And then they'll send me an email and say, hey, is this you? Credit cards companies do a pretty good job of monitoring odd transactions and asking you. So just make sure that your email is up to date on your credit card. Make sure that you have your phone number up to date on your credit card, and then set those alarms in action so that if something happens that's suspicious on your credit card, you know about it. Also, from the business action or part of it, we use camera video footage all the time for identification of thieves. So, and I understand that that's an expense on the business owner's part, but if something happens with a credit card purchase and the credit card company denies that purchase, the business then is on the hook for the purchase. So anything that you can do as a business owner, have a camera that's low and right behind where the purchase is taking place, so we can use facial recognition when we get when we capture a suspect that's using stolen credit cards. Have some decent camera angles that are at the door, maybe when the person's coming in and out, so that we can use that. A camera that's elevated up in the corner of a room really isn't capturing usable facial recognition pictures that we can use for that stuff. Maybe a camera in the parking lot that's capturing cars coming and going, so that we can grab a license plate and you can actually see the license plate on the car. So all those things as a business owner are things that are going to help protect you, because ultimately I think that if the credit card company denies the purchase, somebody's going to pay for that purchase, and I don't want it to be you as the business owner that falls victim to that. Also, as a business owner, if you see somebody using multiple credit cards, I would certainly look at the name on the card and make sure that there's nothing saying that you can't ask for ID of the person that's using the credit card. Because if you see somebody using multiple credit cards, there's really a good chance that those aren't legitimate purposes and they're using multiple credit cards in other people's names. So just make sure that you're looking at the credit card, looking at an ID, making sure that the person that's making the purchase is in fact the person whose name is on the card. Because again, as a business owner, that's what they're going to come back on you for if you don't do it correctly. And I'm sure there's fine print somewhere when you work with a card company, that there are certain expectations as a business that you're supposed to meet when you're completing that purchase. So just make sure on your end, you're doing everything you can to protect yourself as a business owner.
Then I have a few pictures of introducing some skimming devices. So the picture to the left is without your basic Bank of America ATM, and then the picture to the right is with. You'll see there's a red cube up in the top left corner, which is a camera, and then there's a cube on top of the card port where you would, enter your card, and that is going to read the magnetic strip on your card. And all that data is now going to a program that these identity thieves utilize to obtain your information.
This is an older version, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this is in theory older technology for criminals. Now we're seeing where they're putting these devices inside gas pumps and including a wireless router, so it's sending the information. They never have to come back and touch that gas pump ever again. Once they deploy this device inside of a gas pump, they are able to capture every credit card that comes through that gas pump, and it's being sent wirelessly to a computer somewhere. So this is an obvious situation, and we see that still. This is something that's still in play. But keep in mind that there is the technology that's out there right now is developing every single day, and they're using this technology for criminal purposes, not just legitimate purposes.
Oh, and then, as I mentioned earlier, a recording eye. So when you're entering your PIN numbers, just be mindful. Use your other hand to cover your PINs. These are some steps to take if you're a victim of identity theft. Contact your New York State Consumer Protection Board, Federal Trade Commission, U.S. Postal Service. Counterfeit credit cards or computer hacking, report it to U.S. Secret Service, U.S. Social Security Administration, credit reporting bureaus, file a report with your local police department, and be proactive. There's a national do not call registry that you can also contact as well. These are all steps to take, and they all address different points of identity theft, but they're all very informational sites. I made sure that everything was up to date. I checked them all as of recently. Just a couple steps to take. And of course, if you have any questions, please contact us at Bethlehem Police Department. We'll be glad to help you out.
A couple of of target rich environments that criminals look at that we wanted to talk about. We recently, this week again, we were struck by what is known as the felony lane gang. So a brief description of what felony lane gang is. The outside lane in a bank, the farthest away lane where they have the worst video and the bank tellers can't see, the clerks can't see the people that are out there as well. They call it the felony lane. So this group, the felony lane gang, is based out of Florida. They've been around for a long time. 2 years ago, we worked with the FBI and we took down a bunch of levels of the felony lane gang, but as typical, they have filled those ranks back in and they are still very active. This past week, they hit the YMCA here in town. They hit the YMCA in East Greenbush. They hit the YMCA in Guilderland. They hit up north at a couple locations in Gloversville. What they do is they go into locations where they know people aren't going to carry their purse with them or their wallet with them. So when you go to a gym, when you go to a baseball park in the summertime, when you're running into the daycare center to pick up your kids, they are aware that people don't take their purses and their wallets with them. So they target those locations and they smash the window and they steal your purse out of the car. They then use that information that they just stole, your license, your credit cards, and your checks, and they dress up like that person to make them look like you. And then they go and use your methods of payment almost immediately. So it's very important that as soon as you identify, both personally and as a business owner, a person who is a victim of identity theft, that we call their credit card companies and we call their financial institutions and we put a hold on all of their stuff. Likewise, if you're a business that has a gym or something similar to what I spoke of, you want to be aware of what's going on outside in your parking lot and people that are suspicious in your parking lot. The YMCA thing that happened this past week, it was over in 7 minutes. They pulled in a parking lot with a van. 5 guys got out, they hit the parking lot and they searched for purses, smashed 3 windows, took 3 purses, and they were out of the parking lot in 7 minutes. So the reality of being able to catch them in that process is not likely. But if we had video of a license plate leaving, if we had better video outside of a pinch point where they're potentially coming and going from, where we'll have a better view of them, those are the things that we would look for as a police department. And be mindful yourself if you're going to the baseball park and you don't want to bring your purse, put it in the trunk, Lock
Mhm.
it so it's out of view. You don't have things in your car that are in view where you could be victim of identity theft.
Out of sight, out of mind, and not just purses, but anything of value, laptops, phones, anything of value. Make sure you're out of sight, out of mind. All right, going into types of scams, pretty much same thing, just a different way of identity thieves to just get, not so much identity thieves, but they're just getting some type of benefit, beneficial gain from you. So they try to steal your money or personal information over the phone. So that telephone scam, for example, they'll disguise themselves as bank representatives, police officers, which has happened to us in the past, robocalls or text messages. Again, if you don't, my rule of thumb is if I do not know the phone number, I do not answer it. If it's important, they'll leave a voicemail and I'll call them back. If I get, a phone conversation from a bank and it's something important or it sounds, like if something, my account's at risk, I'm going to call the bank directly, be like, hey, did you guys just try to call me? Contact the source directly. That's always my rule of thumb. And don't answer any phone calls that you don't know. Wait for a voicemail. If it's important, they'll leave a voicemail.
Anything that's legitimate will allow you the opportunity to call them back. And he mentioned that we see it all the time. We often call people and they don't believe that we're the police department. So our steps are Google the Bethlehem Police Department on your own.
Yep.
Find the number to the Bethlehem Police Department on your own and call and ask for it. Anybody that's a legitimate business should be able to do the same thing. They should have a way that they can find your number on their own and call you back and verify who you are. So if you cannot take those steps, you have to think that there's a potential for that to be a fraudulent, an identity theft situation.
The always popular grandparent scams. Phone scammer claims to be your favorite grandson or granddaughter, prompting the grandparent to say their name. The grandson, granddaughter is out of town and needs money ASAP to make bail. They've gotten in trouble. They need bail money really quick, pay for automobile repairs and pay for medical expenses. They'll go to the grandparent because of that, your family dynamic, that level of trust there, like, oh, don't tell mom, don't tell dad, I got in a jam, I just need you to help me out. Can you, just a lot of times what they'll do is, going back into the credit card scams, they'll have you go to a store, grab credit cards, purchase them, and then give all of the authorization numbers over the phone back to them. And then they've just gained access to that money and it's not traceable. It's a gift. When you're dealing with gift card money, you're in a sense like gifting that money. It's not traceable. I had a resident who did $32,000 in gift cards and lost all of it.
Keep in mind that these people are good at what they do as well.
Yeah.
So the most recent grandparent scam we had was related to a car crash, and the person called and said that your granddaughter had been in a car crash, and she was injured but not really bad, but she hurt somebody else pretty bad, and she's been arrested now, and she needs bail money. And then they put an attorney on the phone, and the attorney comes on the phone and they say that they're representing them, and they have a conversation to make them feel comfortable, like the attorney is really representing their grandson or granddaughter. And then they get the first level of money out of them. They go and they give them $4,000, and then an hour later they get another phone call and they say, unfortunately, the person that your granddaughter hit or grandson hit has now fallen ill and passed away in the hospital, and now the bail's gone up. So we're going to need you to go get more money. And then they send them back to get more money. So they're very good at what they do, and they are able to layer their scam so that they continue to get more money out of a person until that person catches on. So this is going to keep going until they realize that something's not right. So that's where we lean on business owners when you see people coming in and getting multiple rounds of gift cards or taking out large sums of money or hitting an ATM or asking for a wire transfer, because all those are unprotected ways to send money. And Kate mentioned the gift card thing. Most of those balances are transferable to green dot cards or several other types of cards where they could take a gift card and immediately transfer the balance off. So what they're asking for is a person to go to Lowe's and get a $500 Lowe's gift card and then give them the number. So they take that money and immediately transfer it off the card. So within 15 minutes, that money's gone, and we have no way to trace where that money is gone. So On our part of it, we try to utilize every piece of the investigation to do search warrants and banks and financial establishments and wire transfer, and we try to track the money. But in cases with gift cards, it's very, very difficult, and we're very limited in what we can do unless we get it right when it's happening.
And just like Sarge said, with my specific resident that was out $32,000, he's like, oh, well, somebody called me saying that they were Sergeant so-and-so from the police department and he does work there. And I'm like, okay, well, what did he say? And he pretty much went along the lines of like some type of threat, like coercion. So, he's like, oh, he said, if you don't provide this money within, such and such time, this is what's going to happen. And professionals, there's never going to be a threat associated with a professional. And there shouldn't be. If that's the case, hang up the phone and call the source directly. It's just another tip to keep in mind. People should not be saying, okay, well, if you don't do this, I'm gonna do this. That's inappropriate and should not be happening. Call the source directly.
We keep talking about vulnerable entity, right? I mean, we talk about a grandparent scam, but that's because they are targeting elderly people that are potentially somewhat confused. They're certainly not tech savvy. They don't know how to manage all those things that are going on with computers, and they are very quickly fall victim. And once they fall victim and they realize that they've fallen victim, they certainly don't want to admit that they fell victim, and then they want to try to work themselves out of it. Right. And then they end up spending more money and more money and more money. And ultimately, it's just a very slippery slope. So just keep in mind that the vulnerable entities are the ones that we need to pay attention to and watch as business owners and see what they're doing when they come in our stores.
Mm-hmm. All right, your gift card prepaid card scams, you've kind of touched this a little bit. Phone scammers ask you to purchase hundreds, thousands of dollars in gift cards and then provide them the gift card identification number or the phone to redeem said funds. Again, it's not traceable. Be mindful of yourself, your company, your customers, and, be a friend. Reach out to your own family and friends who could fall victim of this. Or if you hear something that doesn't sound right, and like, I think you should look into that. If it doesn't look right, it doesn't sound right, it probably isn't right. Look out for each other.
There's very few transactions in the business world that one can be paid for by gift cards from some random store. Mm-hmm. So any Lowe's gift card is not going to solve your problem with Microsoft on the computer. So those are things to be aware of. And anytime that you have to send money to get money, it's not a legitimate scam. So we see that with the sweepstakes and the contest scams, right? Send us $400 and we'll reward you with $4,000. None of that makes sense. So if it doesn't make sense, then it's not right. It's not legitimate. And we go by nothing is free in the world. So if it sounds wrong, it is wrong. Just don't send money for anything.
Going into our sweepstakes contest scam, requests you, the winner, to send a check, wire money to cover the taxes and fees of said prize, or request the winner to deposit a check, and then it is directed to return a percentage of the money back to the contest. Again, that it doesn't sound right. It's not right. No one's going to ever ask you to do that. That's being truthful.
I'll just hit on one thing here to go into this section is that we see marketplace scams and Craigslist scams similar to this. Yeah. So if you're selling something online, on whether a marketplace or a Craigslist, and the scam that we see is that they'll buy this thing sight unseen. So they have no idea what they're looking at. They don't reach out to ask for more pictures. They don't want a conversation. You're selling a snowplow and they buy the snowplow sight unseen without trying to lower the price or anything like that. And then when you agree to that, if you're selling it for $2,000, we'll see that they send you a check for $6,000. And what they say is that the $6,000 is for the shipper. So they're going to have a shipper come and pick up this plow. And once they pick it up, give them the other $4,000. Tomorrow, we get another message saying, oh, the shipper fell through. We're not going to be able to buy it. Just send us back, $4,000 and keep the other $2,000. A week from now, that check bounces and the victim is out $6,000 and they've already sent $4,000 to some unknown person. So that's typically what we see in a marketplace or a Craigslist scam type of thing. So just be aware of those, odd transactions where somebody wants to buy something sight unseen and is more than willing to give you money, which we all know is not a realistic thing.
Okay. IRS scams, talked about this a little bit earlier. Phone scammer claims to be the IRS who then threatens jail time, deportation, or revocation of your driver's license if you don't send money or maintain your citizenship. So in regards to my gift card, prepaid card scam case, this was an individual who was threatened deportation if he did not provide the $32,000 to the caller. It was $15,000 for himself, $15,000 for his wife, and then an additional $2,000 for handling fees or whatever terminology they used to him. He was home alone, and when his wife came home, he had all the authorization numbers on the back of the credit cards written down. He had names off the phone callers, the sergeant that was listed, and unfortunately, it's not traceable. But he was threatened deportation. That's why he did it without question.
I mean, they're just good at what they do.
Yeah.
If you Google the Bethlehem Police, you're going to see that we work for the Bethlehem Police. So our names are going to be available. Just like any business, if you Google any business, you're going to have names that are associated with that. So just be careful of that information. That's all.
Computer technician scams, again, like I mentioned earlier, watch out for those pop-ups, those messages. Phone scammer claims to be a computer technician from tech support advising you that your computer has a virus. May also appear as a pop-up on your computer screen. They'll ask for direct access to your computer so they can fix or remove that virus, gaining access to your personal and bank information. Yeah.
Same thing. I mean, just verify who you're allowing to work on your stuff. Use a reputable company. Be hesitant of somebody that's going to fix your problems online, because I would never turn over my computer to anybody because I don't trust that they are telling me what they are. There's a ton of companies in the area, Geek Squad, Best Buy. You can take your device somewhere and have it fixed by somebody that you can verify who they are, and then you can trust that they're going to do the right thing with your information. All of us have a ton of information in our computers and in our cell phone that in the wrong hands could be used for criminal purposes. So just be careful who you're turning your device over.
And internet dating scams. Scammer tricks you into believing they're in a relationship with you. Scammer uses a fake identity to gain your trust, then asks for or blackmails you for money.
We talk about vulnerable, out there. So this is somebody that lives alone, is home alone, doesn't have a lot of friends, and is on the internet, and they're trying to find somebody to be friends with them, and they get hooked up with somebody that's going to take advantage of them. So just remember that these people are vulnerable, and they're going to act odd in your business, and you got to ask a couple questions to get. You're not going to get it on the first question. You're going to get it on the third or the fourth question when you start asking, is this right, or why are you doing this type of thing? And again, these are people that are being taken advantage of. They're victims, and they're vulnerable, and criminals know that, and they take advantage of it.
Pigeon drop scams. Two scammers approach a senior near an ATM machine shopping area. The scammers claim they found a package wallet with a large sum of money in it. Scammers often offer to split the money, but only after the senior shows good faith by producing money of his or her own. Scammers then send the senior to the boss to get some of the promised money. The senior then discovers that there is no boss, and scammers have disappeared.
Anytime you're being asked to send cash somewhere, it's not. If you're being asked to put cash in a magazine and put it in a box and send it to this, that's not a legitimate transaction. So in today's day, you should never send cash anywhere foreign. It's a scam, and you're going to be out the money. And the problem with cash and with checks is they're unprotected purchases. So it's not like a credit card where you have Visa or MasterCard. Those are protected purchases. We have ways to try to get you your money back as a victim of a scam. If you send cash, if you go to the bank and you make a withdrawal of cash and you put that in a box and you send it, there's not too many steps that we can take as police to try to get that money back for you. Because the bank isn't going to want to refund the money. That person made a lawful withdrawal from their account. The bank is not on the hook for that. The financial institution is not on the hook for that. The victim of the crime, unfortunately, is. And it's not likely that we're going to be able to recover that money. So just be careful of anything in a box of cash.
And I understand business and individual, but on an individual standpoint, when you're out and about in parking lots or at, businesses, be mindful of your surroundings. I always say keep your head on a swivel and leave yourself an out. you know,
group that's targeting the Apple store in right now. So they're sitting on the Apple store and they're waiting for people to leave with a purchase of an iPad or cell phones. And then they follow that person out of the mall until they get away from the mall. And whether they're not forcefully stealing the property, but people even often leave it in their car when they run into the store or they get gas, and they're taking that device out of their car. So just always be aware of whether you're at the ATM machine, whether you're leaving the bank or a financial institution, whether you just purchased something in the mall. Just be aware of what's going on around you, and know if something doesn't seem right, then trust your instincts and get yourself out of that situation.
Absolutely. How to protect yourself. So I have a few different categories of how we mentioned, from telephone. So don't answer unknown numbers. Again, wait for voicemail confirmation. Call the source directly. Never give personal information over the phone. I've had several cases where a bank called their customer and, oh, it's so-and-so from Sefkin. Just to confirm your identity, can you just give me your name, your date of birth, your address, social security number, to confirm of the information I have on my screen. They're calling you. They should know who they're speaking to. Like, you shouldn't have to confirm your identity. It just doesn't sound right. It's not right. Call the source directly.
Always use the internet to help you in this situation too. A lot of times if you're getting calls from a scam number and you Google that scam number, somebody has to put in there that this is a scam.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not sure, then just Google the number.
Yep.
And a lot of times that's going to come back as a scam number.
Don't rely on caller ID. There's spoof generators where they can make, this has happened to us, where they've taken the Bethlehem Police Department number and camouflaged their number to look like the Bethlehem Police Department was actually calling this individual, and then identified themselves as one of our employees. So be mindful of that too. There are generators to create spoof numbers, and never wire money or pay to collect prizes.
With scammers, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there was a time when a long distance phone number meant a scam, so you didn't answer it.
Mm-hmm.
Then you started getting scammers from 518 area
Right.
code. Hey, well, this is 518 I should probably answer.
Or like 845.
Now they're scammers as well. So just be aware, just because the number says something, it doesn't mean that it is the person.
Credit card bank security. Make copies of credit debit cards for personal records. If lost or stolen, you can quickly get them canceled. So you're like, oh, I can't remember what my bank number is. Keep them in a secure location, safe, somewhere secure, so that when you're trying to give your banker this information, you can say, yep, it was this account, this is my number, this is my account number, my routing number, etc.
These are important for our investigation.
Yeah.
When you get your statement from your credit card company, the only thing on your statement is the last 4 digits of the card.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of vendors require this whole 16-digit card number for us to track purchases. So if you as a victim can have your 16-digit credit card written somewhere at home, not with you, but have it at home available to you, so that if you're ever the victim of identity theft, you can produce that number. Those are very helpful for us while we're trying to.
Again, always review statements and close compromised accounts. Personal information, shred your documents, personal and financial. Don't carry your social security card around. That's a big one. I had a traffic stop one time where they handed me their social. I'm like, no, you're not supposed to have this on you. Just give me your license.
It's rare that you're going to use your social security card, your birth certificate, and 7 forms of ID. There's no reason to carry all of those things on you. Carry only what you need, so that in the event that it's lost, you can just be very limited what you got to report. If you have one credit card and your driver's license, that's much easier to solve than if you have every piece of identification that you've ever had in your bag with you.
And do not put your phone number on checks. Passwords and PINs.
Don't write them on the back of your car.
Yes. And don't make them completely obvious either. Date of births, your name.
Believe it or not, cell phones are extremely secure. Especially Apple devices. So I would support you putting your PIN number and your password in your cell phone, provided that you have a password on your cell phone. So I support that. I know from a law enforcement standpoint that we have a very tough time getting into Apple devices. So certainly if you have an Apple device, I would be comfortable with you putting financial information into your iPhone in a secure way. Just be careful using Apple Pay and things like that, because all you have to do is hold your phone near a device to pay with Apple Pay. I'm not saying that Apple Pay is the way to go, But if you take a picture of your PIN number or you take a picture of your credit card and have that in your phone, I would support that.
Two security questions that cannot be looked up. So social media is a huge one. Like, oh, where'd you go to school? Where'd you grow up?
All
You
those
know,
quizzes that are offered on social media, like that you take with your friends, are all designed to steal people's information. So when you take and answer those 15 questions about where was your first date, what was the first town that you worked in, what's your maiden name, like all those things, they're really capturing people's information.
And they present themselves as like a quiz, like, oh, like, you know, share this to your friend and see what their results.
Anything on social media is designed to take information back, and that's what social media is. You know, if we have a conversation about buying a dog kennel, when I go on Facebook, there's dog kennels on my Facebook. That can't help but be suspicious of that. So you have to be careful with what you're putting on social media.
That's the next bullet point, is be cautious when surfing the internet using social networking sites, Facebook, posting personal information, your date of birth, your phone number, you know, where you're from, where you're living, where you've worked, where you're working now. Those can all be security questions to places that you have a username and password. And be a friend. If you suspect a friend, family member is being scammed, talk them out of it and report it, for all the reasons that we've been over.
With that, people that you think have a conversation with them and just talk about it. That's what we encourage. You know, if we're talking about it, at least people are aware of it, and maybe they'll take a second guess at it when it happens to them. And like I said, it's not if you're going to be a victim of identity theft; it's going to be when, because we deal with identity theft every day on many levels. So it's just a matter of time before you're a victim.
Okay. And then, any questions?
Sergeant Caitlin, thank you so much for that. So, I mean, again, having six children ourselves, I thought I knew all the scams. I've learned something new today on things to teach them. A couple of things in regard to our businesses in particular. I think that was really important, is just be careful on what's getting tossed out, right? I mean, I know we talk about that dumpster diving, it's kind of old fashioned, but you know, you're in budget season, you're trying to get your tax work together, you know, you do a bunch of drafts. Oftentimes people will just toss. Just remember, there is banking information or credit information on that can be used. I mean, would you guys agree with that? I mean,
we shred everything, and we have a service that takes all of our documents, and we dispose of all of our documents that way so that it's secure. You know, we said there's no such thing as junk mail. And the same goes with your documents. I mean, you really have to take some steps to destroy stuff and make sure that you're not putting information out there.
Yeah, I mean, and that's financial as well as your personnel records, like, you know, HR stuff. I think, you know, again, we have to be ultra careful. And I believe there are services out there. Not everybody has, although you can go to, you know, pretty much any Staples or whatever and get a shredder, but I do believe there's some entities, I think it's Steel Mountain, or Gray Mountain or something that will actually, you can take your paperwork, boxes of it. I can say I've done it, and they will secure it. It's locked, and then it's taken to a secure shredding facility. So there are alternatives out there. So I would strongly suggest that.
I think it's pretty cheap too, because they take that stuff and they sell it to another entity. So while I don't think that they do it for free, I think they're pretty reasonable services.
Yeah. And again, we've really spent a lot of time talking about fraud and identity theft today, but I'm guessing businesses in town are suffering other sorts of crime. I know, you know, there's been some stuff in Glenmont where I think actually tractors or snowplows or something I'd heard were stolen. I think, you know, cameras may not be cheap, but when we think about what they can actually help to, you know, hopefully, you know, keep people away if people see cameras up, but also assist. So it's not just seeing the individuals in this particular case. You know, if you have, you know, outdoor spaces that you can secure with the camera, I would guess that's something you all could use, you know.
The facial recognition technology is growing leaps and bounds every day. It's very useful. The more data that's collected, and the better images that we get. We don't need a very good shot to get facial recognition. We need an okay shot to get facial recognition. So anything that we can do, and like I said, the location of the cameras is important too, because you walk into a business and you see them in the corners, that potentially isn't giving us the best view. It's at door level walking in, it's, behind the register at eye level. So places where we get a better image and can see the person.
And if the business wanted to do that, is that something you would, if they called you, would you guys be able to go down and do
By all
kind of a
means.
walk-through survey and help with that? Is
By
that?
all means.
Mhm.
I don't want to point the finger at businesses, but we are at Walmart all the time, and they are great with their camera system. They recently did an upgrade in their camera system, and we had that conversation. Price Chopper up in Slingerland's has a camera that catches license plates coming in and out. So that's all part of our conversation with the businesses that we regularly go to, that see a lot of the petty larceny type stuff. So by all means, we would certainly help with that.